This right here is a PC I have built for $500. It has, let's just say, a very powerful GPU and also a pretty decent CPU in there as well, okay? But yeah, guys, so first off, you might be wondering why I'm recording it in this weird location. It's because, well, I have the PC already plugged in and ready for everything because my original clip got freaking corrupted. But, so yeah, guys, please bear with, okay? But anyway, so this right here is a PC I have built for $500, okay? It's got some pretty decent specs. We're going to get into the specs later, alright? But first off, I just want to say a few things about this piece. So first off, you might be wondering, why is there a secondary PSU here, just sitting here doing nothing? Well, it isn't doing nothing, okay? So you can see the fans are currently spinning because, well, this is a dual PSU powered PC, okay? Because the original PSU in here is A, proprietary, B, has no 8-pin connectors, C, has only a 250 watt maximum power output, and for the graphics card here, which is insanely powerful for a $500 PC, by the way, yeah, it definitely needs more than just a 250 watt power supply, okay? So yeah, we have this right here, which is a 400 watt power supply that actually only has a 6-pin. I'm using a 6 to 8-pin adapter, but since it'll be fine, okay? Since this, only is giving power to the graphics card, and the graphics card doesn't have the highest TDP ever, so yeah. But anyways, guys, let's just go ahead and say the graphics card is a 50 series GPU of some kind, alright? But we'll go and get on with the specs later, okay? So, anyways, more modern features about this. This is an 8th gen Intel CPU, so it's got USB-C, it fully supports Windows 11, and this thing is perfectly modern, alright? And also, you might recognize this computer. It's because it's from the $150 computer video, but I put a few more upgrades in here, and we just pretended that I never bought the GTX 1050 Ti to, save a bit of money, because, yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting PC. Let's go and get on with the specs, shall we? Alright, so this $150 gaming PC, which is basically just an HP EliteDesk 800 G4 tower with a really, really powerful GPU shoved into there, sports 32 gigs of DDR4 2400 MHz dual channel RAM. It's 4 sticks, but it's running in dual channel thanks to the i7, which actually the CPU in here is the Intel Core i7 8700, which is running at 3.2 GHz with 6 cores and 12 threads. This thing is pretty modern and compares in some ways to like the i5 12400F, which that CPU is actually still pretty darn modern. So this thing will meet all the minimum requirements in literally every single game out there. Storage wise, we have the same 500 gig SSD, which is running in SATA 3 mode, is a SATA SSD, with a 320 gigabyte SATA 3 HDD. It's a junk laptop hard drive that, I got for free. So yeah, GPU wise, here's the fun part. I bought the Gigabyte WindForce OC RTX 5060 8GB, okay? Now this thing, yeah, sure, it's an 8GB graphics card, but it's a 5060 in a $500 build. That is just insane. And in other notes, the CPU boost frequency boosts up to 4.2 GHz on all cores. But yeah, still though, this Gigabyte RTX 5060 I bought for $250 brand new. It was an insane deal at Best Buy, which is honestly surprising since Best Buy normally offers scams. But anyways, let's go ahead and get on with the general usage benchmarks, or what you'll see in the later part of the video. So guys, in terms of general usage, this thing handles it like a beast, okay? We already know this from the $150 PC video, except in terms of YouTube playback now. This thing can play 8K 60 FPS perfectly fine, thanks to the acceleration of that RTX 5060. Now that we also have 8 gigs of VRAM as well. So instead of talking about that, let's go and talk about how I got these parts. So, first off, the 5060 I bought brand new at Best Buy for $250. It was a pretty insane deal, especially since, with the storage going on now, it's worth more like $330. So yeah, I made bank on that crap, alright? I made $80. I saved $80 rather on that 5060. So yeah. Also, in terms of the RAM, I upgraded that. It originally came with 3 8GB sticks and 1 4GB stick, but that 1 4GB stick, not only was it less in capacity, it also had slower clock speed. It was running at 2133 MHz, so it slowed the entire PC down to 2133 MHz. But I upgraded that 1 4GB stick to an 8GB 2400 MHz stick, and now the entire PC, well, all the RAM runs at 2400 MHz, meaning that's faster, and it'll give us a slight performance increase. But anyways, about storage, we're just going to be using the same parts from last time, which was a 500GB SSD, and also 320 gig junk hard drive, alright? But anyways, guys, let's go and get on with the benchmarks, as I know that's why you guys are here for. You guys want to see how well this beast of a mostly used but also brand new GPU $500 game PC holds up in 2026. Well, not holds up, how it handles 2026 games, alright? But hey guys, anyways, let's get on with the benchmarks, shall we? Starting off right in the deep end here, we have the most popular PC game in the world, Minecraft Java Edition. Minecraft is running at 1080p with the fancy settings selected, 24 chunks of render distance, as we have a really decent CPU, and with the Rethinking Voxel ray tracing shaders, which are extremely demanding. The PC was able to achieve a decent average of 70 FPS with 1% loads down to 36, as there were 24 chunks being loaded in by that i7. If you wanted a 100 plus FPS experience, you could use the non-ray tracing shaders and see that easily. These ray tracing shaders will even crush a 5090 at 1080p, so it's impressive to see a $500 PC handled so well. Overall, this PC can handle the crap out of Minecraft, Java, even with really fancy demanding shaders. This same thing goes for Bedrock as well, even with vibrant visuals. On to the next benchmark. Next up, we have a very infamous AAA title here. We have Cyberpunk 2077 running at 1080p with the ray tracing ultra settings selected, with DLSS set to quality. This GPU would normally see around 70 FPS at ultra without RT, with DLA instead, but I want to test how the i7-87 will handle ray tracing, and it barely handles it. Ray tracing not only uses the 5060 itself, but its VRAM and the CPU as well. At these really demanding settings, the PC pulls an average of 52 FPS with 1% lows down to 34. At certain points of the game, the CPU would cause drops to low 30s as shown in 1% lows. Most of the time though, the game ran around 60 FPS apart from the random areas around the map with lots of reflections where the frame rate would tank due to the ray tracing settings. Overall, Cyberpunk 2077 is very playable even with ray tracing on this $500 gaming beast. If you want even more performance, you could just enable Ultra with DLA like I said before. On to the next benchmark. A very realistic driving simulator here. We have BeamNG Drive running at 1080p with the Ultra settings selected and using the Vulkan renderer. And the game is running really smoothly, and the reason why we're using the Vulkan renderer is because the RTX 50 series really benefits from it. The i7 was being pushed to the limits, but nevertheless, it was still very playable. At these settings, the i7-8700 with the 5060 gets an average of 189 FPS with 1% lows down to 146. Any traffic would decrease FPS dramatically as we don't have much CPU headroom. More intensive maps will affect the performance and may even max out the VRAM as we only have 8GB, but overall BeamNG runs great on this $500 gaming beast. On to the next benchmark. The most popular esports game in the world here, we have Counter-Strike 2 running at 1080p with the low settings selected and 8x MSAA, which is some anti-aliasing, to put some load on the GPU. Even though we have 8x MSAA, the 5060 never went above 50% utilization, probably due to our slow RAM, as this CPU expects 3000 MHz RAM instead of 2400. The CPU could hit around 250 FPS with decent RAM. However, even with the crippled memory, we still saw averages of 166 FPS with 1% lows down to 113. Still very competitive. For a game like CS2, you want at least 120 FPS on average, with preferably above 60 FPS 1% lows, and this PC easily achieves that. Overall, CS2 is a very good competitive experience on this $500 gaming beast. On to the next benchmark. Next up, we have the infamous ray tracing required title here, Doom the Dark Ages. Doom the Dark Ages is running at 1080p with the Ultra Nightmare settings selected with DLAA, and the game is running great. At these settings, the $500 PC pulls off an average of 69 FPS. Nice. With 1% lows hitting 50 FPS. The stutters were not caused by the i7-8700, rather, it's just a quirk of UE5. Different areas will affect performance both positively and negatively, but overall, Doom the Dark Ages runs great on this $500 gaming PC. On to the next benchmark. Next up, with an older game of Doom, we have Doom Eternal here running at 1080p with the max RT settings used, and the game is running great. At these settings, that are really demanding by the way, the PC achieved an average of 68 FPS with 1% lows down to 47. The game was a bit PCIe bottlenecked, even though the usage appeared as 100%. We could tell this from the power draw of the card being only around 70 watts and the CPU doing just fine. Our 8GB of VRAM was almost maxed out, as Doom E is one of the first really VRAM demanding games. If you want to play at 1440p, you would have to either use a PCIe Gen 4 system, at least, or turn off ray tracing. Overall, Doom Eternal runs really solidly on this $500 gaming beast. On to the next benchmark. Next up, with a quote-unquote indie game here, we have Wreckfest running at 1080p with the pure ultra settings used. We have the VRAM to run these settings, as this game wants at least 6 gigs of VRAM at 1080p, and we have 8 gigs. The CPU was bottlenecking the GPU, as the GPU saw around only half to 2/3 utilization. The CPU was powerful enough to the point where there were minimal stutters, but the GPU was still held back, like I said. This configuration of a $500 gaming beast scores an average of 167 FPS, with 1% of those down to a perfect 100. Different maps and amounts of vehicles can affect performance, but overall, Wreckfest runs pretty damn smoothly and is perfectly usable for online play on a $500 gaming PC. On to the next benchmark. One of the most popular games on Steam here, we have GTA 5 Enhanced Edition running at 1080p with the maximum ray tracing settings used, and the game is running really well. The CPU was close to being the bottleneck as ray tracing was turned on, which is not only intensive on the GPU, but the VRAM and CPU as well. At these settings, the dual PSU beast pulled an average of 65 FPS, with 1% of those hitting just below that being 53. More intensive areas like Jack's Hill will drop the frame rates to the low 50s, as shown in our 1% lows. GTA 5 Enhanced Online Edition, which is the multiplayer version by the way, will see similar-ish results, but overall GTA 5 Enhanced runs really well on this $500 dual PSU and practical PC. On to the second to last benchmark. Second to last benchmark here, we have Fallout 4 running at 1080p with the ultra settings used. And to be honest, if this PC didn't run it at a flat 60 at 1080p ultra, I would have been disappointed. The RTX 5060 itself can handle 4K ultra and maintain around 50 FPS, so it's all up to the i7-8700. Luckily, at these settings, the PC pulls an average of 60 FPS with 1% was down to 50, which is what I expected. This result was, like I said, expected, as this is a high-end CPU from 2017 and a mid-range GPU from 2025, and the game is from 2015. More intensive areas will remain at a playable locked 60 FPS, as the GPU barely hits 30% usage. Overall, Fallout 4 runs really well on this $500 PC, and this probably goes for all the other Fallout games as well, like Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, Fallout 76, games like that. On to the last benchmark. Last up, we have Marvel Rivals, which is a very modern and demanding UE5 esports title, running at 1080p high settings, and the game is running decently. At these settings, the PC pulls an average of 143 FPS, 1% was down to 94 when things got tough. We could not go up to Ultra, as we would hit our VRAM limit of 8 GB. The CPU was hanging on by a thread, as this game isn't kind to older, but still decent CPUs. Different maps and matches may lead to different results, as I'm testing using the training area so I don't get banned for logging out too early, which is a weird quirk of this game. But anyways, overall, Marvel Rivals runs pretty well on this $500 beast. On to the conclusion. In conclusion, how well did this PC perform? Well, for $500, this thing is a beast. To fit a 5060 in a $500 budget, we had to make a ton of sacrifices, like, for example, the practicality, and also the CPU was holding it back a little bit. Honestly, though, if, we just built, like, a normal PC, like, a few years ago, pretend RAM prices and SSD prices were normal, if we built this, it would probably have, like, an RX 6600 with a Ryzen 5 5500, which, yeah, even though the 5500 is much faster, the 6600 is a much slower card, alright? So, yeah, not great. But still, though, that's still a pretty decent gaming PC. But this PC, it performs much better than that, if the CPU isn't holding it back. But anyways, this video was definitely interesting to make, and I actually pulled, the PSU I didn't actually buy, I just pulled from the dumpster PC temporarily for the video, because, yeah, I'm too poor to afford another PSU. But anyways, guys, see you next video, and remember to subscribe. Have a good day.